congratulations on being inducted into the North Carolina Literary Hall of Fame. It's quite an honor.
It's a great honor, and I feel it's a very special honor for me because it puts me in the group of people that I admire greatly and respect greatly, and my fellow writers in North Carolina, and it's a very, very special honor for me to have been selected for this induction.
So how did you feel, Tony, when you first heard the news that you'd been selected for this honor?
I thought about Reynolds Price and Thomas Wolfe and Lee Smith and those people who are in it, and they seem to me to are really great writers, and I didn't feel like I was quite in the same class as those people. So to be elected to the Hall of Fame makes me feel a special part of the company of those wonderful writers, and so I felt in my heart this was quite a remarkable honor.
As a young boy, did you ever envision that one day you would be receiving this kind of honor?
Well, the answer is no. Getting a PhD is the worst preparation possible for the writing of poetry because they're two totally different kinds of language. You know what I mean? In other words, there's a scholarly language of research and literary criticism, but the language of poetry comes from the heart, from the soul, from the feelings. And I had to find those again.
Yeah, and Tony, you start out early in this book having a conversation with the angel, and the angel comes to the poet and says that she's read your poems.
Yeah.
And the poet says, "You read my poems?" She says, "Yeah, I watched you write them." Oh, and she says, "You have to trust me." And the poet says, "What?" And she says, "Don't worry about what I know or don't know, just trust me." And the poet says, "I'm scared." And she talks about the fact that the poet is writing a lot about death.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious because you were through these dialogues, I think, perhaps searching for some answers.
Oh yeah, sure.
So this last poem, "The Angel Speaks of Death," what's your thought?
I've spent my whole life as a practicing Christian. I started teaching Sunday school when I was at Princeton, and I would go to a little mission church down on Route 1 and teach Sunday school. And then when I went to Harvard, I taught Sunday school at Christ Church on Brattle Street in Cambridge. And then I've been teaching Sunday school at Davidson ever since I've been here. And so I've always been a believer, but I feel like that feeling that there might be nothing is always a doubt, no matter how much of a believer you are. And so I voice that doubt in this poem, and I want an answer to that doubt. And as much faith as you have, the doubt is always still there. So either there's three answers. One is there's nothing. One is everything is good. And the third answer is some things are good and some things are bad. There's the whole business of hell, heaven and hell. And I think what I feel, I like when it says, don't worry, let God worry for you. In other words, just be. Be a loving person. The angel tells him to be a loving person, to love everybody, especially those who are not beautiful. And you don't have to worry about that because there's nothing you can do about it. It is what it is. Just as the dogwood in the spring doesn't think about its business, just be. So I think that's probably the answer that the angel's trying to give him. The worst thing you can do as a poet is not to have a life. In other words, writing is not about writing necessarily. Writing is about living. And the more deeply and fully you live, the more you are able to write. The joy of teaching is so exuberant. I mean, good teachers just love the being in the classroom. And you know, to me, talking about books is really important because it's really my spiritual life. It's a form of spiritual exercise to explore the questions that they're exploring. Or to me, the great novels. I'm doing a course in Nathaniel Hawthorne this fall, and The Scarlet Letter. The great novels always deal with these profound issues, and you know, the question in Hawthorne is who or what does Hester Prynne represent, and who or what do the Puritans represent? And the excitement of exploring those issues with the students gives me great joy, because you don't know what they're going to say, and you have dialogue with them, and the dialogue is what makes the class so important. So I mean, I just get a lot of pleasure from teaching. Writing is a way of discovering the lives of other people who are very important in your life, which you would not otherwise have done. And what I would say to the young writer is, do it now, do it now, do it now, before it's too late, because the information may not be available to you if you wait too long. Robert Frost says that, Landis, he says that if you know what your poems are going to say before you write them, then the joy of writing them is taken away, because the writing of the poem is in itself an exploration of what it's a discovery of something rather than simply a repetition of something you already know.
So, Tony, one last question before we have a final reading here from you. How would you like to be remembered as a writer?
You know, I never know what I'm going to say until you ask the question, and that's kind of fun. As someone whose poems uh, help people to lead fuller lives, whose lives were in some way changed or affected to the good by reading my poems. I think that was very important to me.